Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Vacuum Exposition, and we are in our final October special month. So you probably already know what's kind of coming. We're taking a look at another two coffee can Hoovers, but not just any two, but I'll get to that in a little bit. Few more developments for the channel. We are working with that friend of mine who is trying to rehome his collection. So we are in talks with figuring out a schedule and a time to go ahead and get that all taken care of. I am looking to meet my good friend Mitchell Armstrong on here. He and I are going to be meeting up here soon, if not this weekend, probably sometime soon after, because he has some things for me, as well as I have a machine for him. And in addition to that, there is also a very old vacuum shop that is closing kind of near my area here. So potentially we're going to go down and check them out and see what they have. I know they have a lot of inventory that they were getting rid of as the past few months have gone. So we'll have to check with that and see what's going on there. So many apologies that I am running late on this video. I guess it kind of works out a little bit better because we're a little closer to Halloween, and this is the end of the special, essentially. So it has been quite the past week or so. Last weekend, I was pretty swamped with things. Friday, I have Fridays off from my job, so that's kind of my day to do appointments and junk like that. So that particular day, I went down to my uncle and aunt's house near Portland, and we, as in me and my uncle, made beer, which was absolutely amazing. Had a ton of fun doing that. Always good to spend time with relatives. And then Saturday, we kind of had a chill day, so I really just needed some downtime. A lot of changes at work lately have kind of been stressful, and school, of course, kind of amplifies that stress. But that evening of Saturday, last Saturday, we went to a haunted maze, of course, Halloween, so naturally. But after that, on Sunday, I had a huge project due that took me the entirety of the day, and I ran out of time to film. And then Monday and Tuesday and part of today, Wednesday, I was working on a test. I had the first half on Monday. The second half I did on Tuesday, but I had a little bit more time to work on it because obviously I work on school from home. So I ended up finishing that up and turning that in today. So thankfully, that is all done. And I am now able to get my video on to you guys. Now, I am still in school for another month, so it's going to be pretty busy. Of course, we have all the holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, all that great stuff, including Halloween this coming Friday. So it is going to be an action-packed few months. And then at the beginning of the year, January, February timeframe, me and my wife are moving. So our intent is to buy a house. So we'll see how that whole thing shakes up. And then we'll just kind of go from there. But anyways, that's all the news that I have for me. Let's get on to our video for today and take a look at a cool set of machines. All right, everybody. So we have quite the special set of machines here. Now, what we are looking at here is actually my two oldest Hoovers in my collection. Now, I don't want to say oldest vacuums in my collection because I actually have a couple of them that predate both of these guys by actually about 10 to 20 years. However, these are my two oldest Hoover products in my collection. Now, what we have here on my right, your left, is a 1919 Hoover Model 102. This machine, very important to Hoover's history. It replaced what I was told was more of a letter series. They had the Model O, which would have been their very first one, followed by some other different ones like the Baby, as well as the Model N, and then the N was replaced by the Model 102. Now on my left, your right, we are looking at a Model 105. This machine would have been a little bit higher of an option, as I was told, because it actually has a handle release on the side of it, whereas the Model 102 had a little bit different of a setup, and we'll get into that in just a bit here. Now, for those that haven't been watching the channel for a while, I decided to do a special series for the month of October, being as it was kind of the spooky month, that I wanted to do a series on Hoover's coffee can uprights, a very significant time period in Hoover's history when they had these very interesting uprights that just kind of had, well, a motor plopped right on top of the base here and looked and gave the image of a old coffee can on top, hence the name. Now, I've talked about it a lot and said that, you know, we have these machines here that have been rebuilt, or they had additions put on them, or what have you. But these machines, for the most part, are pretty original. The 102 and the 105, they were machines that would be rebuilt many times by vacuum shops as well as the Hoover Company under you know, special names and whatnot like that. But that was much, much later during that special time period, later in the 30s. Now, the big thing that I want to emphasize with you all right now is we are looking at two Hoover products that are over 100 years old. Now, that being said, these two machines are fantastic. I absolutely love the originality of something like this and being able to use something that is over 100 years old. Now, we can't use both of them, but we'll talk about that in a little bit as well. Now, as far as options go on the Model 102, you didn't get very much. Obviously, I mean, these are, like I said, 100 years old, so they didn't really have the, you know, wherewithal of what to put into a vacuum cleaner aside from making it beat as it sweeps, as it cleans. Now, these, of course, do have a brush roll, and I will go ahead and show that right here. Very simple, made out of horsehair. And essentially what it does is it just beats the carpet, and then this motor, which is actually a Robinson-Meyer fan motor, would suck in what is coming in and thus blow into the bag right here. Now, I know you're probably wondering, like, gosh, what a ugly bag. You know, it's just flopped back here when so many bags are, you know, some straight up and boxy and, you know, overall good posture. You have to keep in mind, this is a vacuum cleaner 100 years ago. Their concept of a bag was literally a bag. The preliminary model to this, the Model O, as I stated earlier, that literally used a pillowcase that said Hoover on the side of it. At least most of these machines would have had something similar to that. I think that Model O actually didn't have anything on the bag, but either way, these most often were just a bag that said Hoover across the side, and it was kind of a tan bag. I actually have one of those bags somewhere in all my parts and everything. I just have to figure out where that went, and I plan on replacing this one with it when I get that all sorted. Now, like I said, this was early with its development, so what I mean by that is being rebuilt by a vacuum shop, it did get a little bit more updated. For instance, the cord is just a regular cord, a very old replacement cord, but it is a regular wall plug cord. And then they did tend to replace the switch with this light switch right here. Very early replacement. And of course, the bag isn't the original bag. Now, it did have one thing that's very interesting and significant that is part of this model, and that's this bar right here. Now, this bar, essentially, was a way for you to lock the handle. So right now you see it's kind of like a shark fin up over the back. So what you would do is there's a little switch on the back that you would undo, and pull backwards. That way it would actually lock the handle in a position like this so that it couldn't go all the way down, essentially blocking the handle from falling to the ground every time you cocked it back. I usually prefer to just hold it down because honestly it's easier sometimes to display without the handle cocked halfway up. Now that's about it on options for this. It did come with a full set of attachments that would kind of hook on to the bottom. There's actually a plate that you would unlock and essentially just have suction from a little connector that would go up underneath there. But this was a very basic machine. You know, when it was sitting straight up, you know, the bag would ride on this little frame here, and then when it would blow up, it would kind of come into a little groove so that it would hold the bag up a little bit better. But that was the 102, a very basic machine. But, you know, owning a vacuum cleaner was pretty prestigious. And I say that because of the ad for this machine, which I'll show right here. As you can see, the lady of the house is actually using this machine, what looks to be an evening gown type wear. You know, she's wearing high heels and looks to be like she's going to get on a jet airplane and go to some far extravagant vacation back in the 1920s. So owning one of these machines was very significant. Now, that didn't mean that you didn't have maintenance. Now, like I stated in one of the last videos, these older Hoovers had motors that needed to be serviced, you know, almost quite often in the way that they needed oil, which is why I have this little guy. This is actually a old oil can that you would get and buy replacements of for your old Hoover. But as you can see, it's got this tip on it, and you have a nipple right here. What you would do essentially is put it like that and kind of squeeze the oil in there. And then you would oil your bearings, and thus your machine was ready to use. Now, depending on how often you vacuumed, which back then, you know, you vacuumed a lot because it came into fashion as being, you know, a new piece of technology, and cleanliness was just becoming more and more popular, essentially. So this would have gotten oiled pretty often. Now, moving on to the 105, this one is a very, very special machine. Not just because it is so old, but it is fairly original comparatively to the 102. I say that because this 105 was owned by the late Jay Devine, or Jason Hoover, and he tried his best to make this machine all original due to a big major factor. Now, like I said, this was the very first machine that would have had a handle release. On the side here, there's a gate that you would essentially use your foot to lift up, not push down, and that would give you 3 different settings that you could set the handle at. Setting 1, which would have been straight up. Setting 2, which would have been like we have it here at this kind of midpoint, and then setting 3 would have been handle all the way to the floor, kind of get up underneath your high top furniture and things like that. So that would have been the first for this one. Of course, this one does retain that original switch, like I said. But one big factor about this machine I did want to tell you guys about is the cord. Now, I like to tell these kinds of stories when I go through my vacuum cleaner museum, but as you can see, this is not a conventional cord like what we have over here. This is, of course, your average 2-prong. This one has no prongs. What does that look like? Well, I'll tell you what it looks like. It looks like a light bulb. Now, back in the teens and 20s, you didn't have central electric power in your house, i.e. you didn't have outlets to, you know, plug your lamps and assorted things in. Instead, your lamps would have actually been hardwired into the electricity to the house. Keeping in mind, this is very early in electricity. I mean, you barely had lights. When you had to do, you know, your kitchen work and everything, you probably had a wood stove or things like that. You really did not have the options like we have today. So what they would do, in order for you to use a vacuum cleaner, they would sell you this vacuum cleaner with this cord. And what you would do is you would unscrew the light bulb in the lamp, screw your vacuum in, and there you go. You're off and cleaning or sweeping. So this retains its original, what we like to call light bulb plugs, because this screws into a light socket. And for those that were interested, here's the part that I love to tell people. That's the reason why we have headlights on vacuum cleaners. A lot of people will argue like, oh, it's, something about, seeing where you're going or where the vacuum's going to go before you get there. Hoover had these different dust sensors and whatnot that came out many years later. Nope. Originally, the reason why a vacuum had a headlight on it was because, well, you're taking the light bulb out of the lamp. And a lot of the times in these larger homes of the families that would be able to afford, a vacuum cleaner, because believe it or not, this was quite the luxury back in the day. So you would have a room with no light. And if you were vacuuming in the evening time, it was pretty dark in there. You were stumbling and bumping into everything with the vacuum cleaner. So they put headlights on them. So that is why they have them. Now this 105, it was a little bit more option than others. However, it still would have retained that kind of pillowcasey type bag. However, this one actually had a black bag, as I would have recalled, and it had some Hoover writing on the bag itself. Now, this is not the original bag. This is actually a bag that was made by Jay and painted by him to have the Hoover on it. So that is why it is on it. A very, very special little touch to this machine, and definitely something that I'll be keeping on it. But this machine, like I said, it was higher option than the 102, which made it a little bit more expensive, as I recall. But I'll show the ab for this one right here. Once again, of course, the ad kind of influencing the times and popularity, and showing that this was a big purchase, and it made a big difference, because for once you didn't have to take your rugs and carpets out to the backyard and beat them with a stick or a rug beater, and the Hoover really did really well for that. So, but I will say one thing before we get on to our run demo for today. I mentioned earlier that we're only going to run one. And to explain, we're going to run the 102 today. It, of course, is the older one, so I pretty much favor that one as well in terms of runnability. But it does have a newer cord and plug. And I used to actually use this to vacuum my dorm room when I was in college when I got it. The 105 having this original light bulb plug, if I had a shop where I could test it with a lamp and everything like that to make sure it was safe, I would. However, being that it is so old and rare to have that cord on it, I think I'm just going to leave it the way it is. But of course, I did want to show you guys that. And at someday, I do plan on having a way so that I can just quickly clip on a regular cord so that I can run some of these machines. And when I do get around to testing this machine, of course, I'll be there to video it for you guys. But that's why we're only going to run one today. But let's get on to our run demo for today and see how the old 102 does on the floor. All right, everybody, so we have the 102 all plugged in, ready to go. Now, these machines are pretty quiet, so I'm not going to turn the volume while it's running down as much as I usually do. But like I said, here's that switch that we're going to turn. Just a kind of a light switch looking thing. So let's take a look and see how the old girl does on the floor. Well, everybody, the old 102 certainly did a fantastic job on the floor. You know, it didn't do as great as a newer machine, obviously, but I really can't expect anything less from something that is as old as it is. Again, 100 years old, people. This thing has survived everything: wars, depressions, multiple recessions, I suppose. So this has lived many lifetimes. I can tell that I'm probably about, the fifth, sixth, maybe, owner of this machine. I got it from another collector, so, it has definitely been around and it has served its owners quite well, myself included, being that, like I said, I used it in my dorm because it was quiet. It did a fairly decent job, and on very low pile loop carpet that I had in my dorm room, this did amazing. So I really can't ask for anything better when it comes to something like this. It is a great machine, and I'm so happy that the series finale for our October coffee can month was capped off with running such an amazing machine here. I have quite a bit more, probably like 20 or 30 of these coffee can Hoover uprights. And, they're all cool. They're all different. They all run and do very well. I know the 105 runs great. It's just been some time, and I want to make sure that cord is safe before I go plugging it into a lamp anytime soon here. But either way, I hope you guys all enjoyed our little run demo for today. Well, everybody, it has been a fantastic day here. I love getting my older machines out, taking a look at them, and, hopefully getting them out and running them. The 102, it has been with me for a very, very long time. Came to me, when life was a little unsure in a lot of ways. If you know my history, you can kind of guess that. But, it was a great machine from a good friend at the time. And I am so happy that it has lived in my collection as long as it has. I want to say it's been in my collection for, about 10, at least, years now. Just because, well, you collect these things along the way. And of course, the 105, it is just so special. It is original. It is nice. I know it runs great. But, it holds such a special piece in my collection just because, of course, its previous owner was a good friend of mine for many years. So I'm very, very happy with the way that this has all come together. And, I hope you guys all enjoyed, learning a little bit about these old coffee can Hoovers this month. I was certainly honored to bring some of these back out just because, I have had them for so long. Eventually I want to be able to show people what we got here. So, but as to the rest of the year, we're going into November now. I am going to kind of take a break from the series stuff for the month of November. We're going to see some assortment of machines. And then in December, we're going to look at some sets. So that December schedule is coming up here soon. So you guys will see more of that. And you know what? Maybe we'll see some more Hoover coffee can set stuff. So we don't know yet. We'll get there when we get there. But I hope you guys all enjoyed our little video for today. And we will catch you again on Sunday. I do have some plans going on this Sunday, of course. Busy time of the year. But we will see you again soon with another video, taking a look at some amazing vacuum cleaners coming soon. So have a great rest of your day, y'all.